Thank you so much for taking some time for me. I truly appreciate it. This is just an absolute honor and a treat to get to visit with you today about your new film. I got the chance to preview it last night, and just let me start off by saying I absolutely love this. It's
Really? Wow.
the story is great, the characters are great, the storyline, throughout the entire thing keeps your attention, and I want more. So I don't know if a sequel's in the works, but man, I need more of these characters. I need the Outlaw Posse to ride again. So, man, just to start off, can we talk about the inspiration? Because you wrote this, you direct it, you're producing it, you starred in it. What led you to come up with the idea for Outlaw Posse?
Well, first of all, I'm glad you saw it, and I'm really glad you enjoyed it. My inner child, I'm still like a kid at heart, and I think part of one of the criteria I was using when I did the movie, when I was casting it, and casting who would be camera and sound, because all of it's casting in fact, was would we want to play together if we were all 12 years old at camp? If we were 12 years old, would we go, dude, I got a great idea. We're gonna do this. We're gonna shoot that, blah blah blah. And if I can find their inner child and they can enjoy mine, then it's on. And especially, and then they got to know what they're doing and be functional, smart, responsible adults. But if you still have that inner child, that's great. I think that's probably the truth, is that there's a side of me that's still a boy, and I love it, and I get to wear that hat. I hadn't done a Western for 30 years. When I did Posse, my dad was around, Melvin Van Peebles, and this time around he's not. But my son Mandela is around, so I get to be the connective tissue, and and have entertain, but also make edutainment, also make have a fun, kick-ass movie, hopefully, but also do things that in an America that it seems like we're pretty divided right now. Sometimes we can't laugh at each other, laugh at ourselves right now in the same room. That you say, in mixed company, when's the last time you saw Butch and Sundance Bravo Bank really, where there's some white face, black face going on? And you're like, oh shit, and that their diversity is their strength, and so you take scenes like that, and you maybe can get, if you're lucky, people that watch MSNBC and CNN and people who watch Fox News to all come together and watch a Western together. And that's my hope, that culture can also be, besides being entertaining, it can be healing, especially in an election year. So I thought, now's the time.
No, 100%. And I'm glad you brought up, because the weaving of the actual historical moments and, the historical facts that are within this movie. I mean, anybody can go out and just make a Western film and, not have it really connect to reality. But the fact that you were able to make that connection really sets not only a realistic tone to the storyline you were providing, but more than anything, I think it gives the audience something to think about. That, okay, yeah, Butch and Sundance are actual people, but a lot of people aren't thinking about, what the issue was after slavery and the things that were promised to slaves after they were freed and that
Oh,
they
man.
didn't actually get, and the reparations and all that. That's such an important aspect to this film that I think is the edutainment that you're looking for and providing. So I appreciate that so much.
Thanks.
I had to ask as well, was it always the game plan for you to both star and direct in it when you were writing the film?
It's just cheaper that way. When I give myself a family discount, I go, man, I've been sleeping with this director for all these years. He better give me a good role. No, plus, I sort of felt like it was, in a way, how when Clint did Unforgiven, Clint knew that, almost 1 out of 3, 1 out of 4 Cowboys was black, first of all. That's why he put Morgan Freeman in Unforgiven. But when he did it, he was sort of playing with the imagery he'd done before in the spaghetti westerns. And I thought, having Posse, and where that character was sort of more serious and bent on revenge, the character of Chief this time had gotten whooped by life a little bit. He's a little older. He's gotten beat up a little bit. He's got a difficult relationship, if any, with his son. He's at a different place, but he sort of gets the joke of life, and he's more forgiving, and he kind of laughs at himself. So that I wanted to take him through a process where, what does a cowboy have? Well, a cowboy's got to have, a horse and his guns and be on some kind of mission, right? That's what the cowboy. Well, early on, this guy looks like a Mexican. He's got a beard. He's in there, and he gets caught off guard. He's got to jump out of the tub and try to get dressed, and then he misses there's no horse, so he's got no horse. He's got to catch a ride with Stagecoach Mary. But he's got to stash his guns, so you got some Second Amendment issues going on there. And then his horses get stolen, but then in a way it's kind of a good thing, but it's kind of a bad thing. And so the guy goes through a series of kind of various degrees of humiliation. He's got a son that gives him shit in front of Whoopi Goldberg, and so there's a little bit of a sort of self-effacing quality to it that I wanted, and I wanted smart actors that you could believe had the gravitas. And when you go in there with Edward James Olmos, you know who he is. This guy's got the weight. When you're dealing with Cedric the Entertainer or Deece Youngfly or Emmett Walsh or Neil McDonough, that you're dealing with people that could carry a movie on their own easily and do. You know what I mean? So I wanted people that when you looked in their eyes, that there was an authenticity there and an intelligence. And in the case of my son, he's not particularly smart, but I know that I'm not. But he's had a lot of practice being my son, and we don't have to fake the love or the conflict. We just have to reshape it. And he rides, and he's an actor, so it was kind of it kind of just made sense in a lot of ways. Even down to the Asian actor who's briefly in the movie towards the end, and you find out that he's playing the role of a guy who winds up having the longest running Chinese restaurant in America, and it's in Montana. That's the real guy's great grandson.
Oh wow!
That you're really going. This kind of diversity was in the West. People go, oh, they think it was all white or all. No, the Mexicans were there, the women were there, the Chinese were building a railroad, the Native Americans were there, of course. We took all their shit. I mean, and Black folks were there. And so when you really look at it, as Dr. King said, we all learn to live together as brothers and sisters, or we perish together as fools. I think we all got to learn to live together, watch a movie, laugh, bring our expectations down, and recognize that we're all Americans. Like I have that line where my character says, we're all Americans now. You know what I mean? And that we are all here in our diversity is a strength.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I love the approach that you took with this film, and I truly think audiences are just going to eat it up. And I really hope that they do. As somebody who has been directing for several decades now, I think you've got to see the evolution of the landscape change over the years. And I know we're running out of time, but I just got to ask, can you kind of talk about that evolution that you've seen as a director and as an actor that's kind of taken course over time, and how that maybe has challenged you or how you've overcome it over the years?
Well, I think there's a lot more, there's more markets, but they're smaller. Right. I wanted Outlaw Posse comes out in theaters. I didn't want it to just come out on a streaming service. When you watch television is still relatively small for most people. And when you watch a film is big, man is small. And I love to be surrounded and impacted by film. And when I did Outlaw Posse, I said, okay, I'm to do say the kind of things I want to do, go to the outrageous places I want to go to, I'm going to have to do that independently. And that means the advantage is you're going to make the movie you want to make. The disadvantage is you won't be on every other billboard. People are going to have to ask their local theater, are you playing Outlaw Posse? And then they'll play it, just like anything else. If they request it, it'll happen. So we've got to do the interviews. It's word of mouth. People like yourself getting out there and saying, posting it, figuring out ways to get the word out. That's the fun of it. Will people know about it? I don't know. But it's kind of that old thing. If we build it, they will come. We will see. They got to know about it to come. And you're helping us do that. So that landscape to me still hasn't changed, because I saw my dad do independent film years ago when he had to break away from the studio system and say, no, I'm going to make Sweetback, and it's not a movie you've seen before. And then when I made, that allowed me to make New Jack City inside the studio system. Well, it's a negative pickup, but then also start to make independent film. And Outlaw Posse is also an independent film in that tradition. So for us, as the Van Peebles family, we still have to deal with a lot of independent films. But if you take McDonald's money, you can't make Super Size Me. That makes sense. So if you don't take the studio money, you don't have to stay the studio line. But it does mean you've got to put a different energy in it. And let me just say this. They say Hollywood's all about money. I would say not always. I couldn't pay the actors big money, but I could make really interesting roles and give everyone their shine. And when you do that, Whoopi Goldberg says, I'm playing Stagecoach Mary. And Edward James Olmos says, I'm playing Ozzy. And DC Youngfly goes, and I'll play him. And Madison Cowley, who really plays the harp, plays that role. And so you find that you get better cast when you go ahead and take risks and let them. William Maypop there looked at it and goes, wait a minute, I'm an antagonist who's a Christian nationalist, but I'm also a bit of an environmentalist, and I love classical music. What a role. You know what I mean? So it's fun to do that. Even the scene with the Baker brothers, the twins, the sheriff, and that's the same actor. You know what I mean? And going to that actor and saying, you get to play both of these brothers, that have this sort of warped sense of Americana. And, saying how many actors get to go in and harmonize with themselves, singing Home on the Range. So it's having fun with imagery and saying, we've seen Blazing Saddles, we've seen Good, Bad, and the Ugly. So the first act is going to have sort of a spaghetti western tone, and the second act, once the bank robbery happens, that's going to all be one shot. That means everyone has to ride and know their animal, and it's like, it's not CGI, it's not AI, it's real guy. And so you got to not be just friends with who they are, but also friends with their horses. Because my son doesn't ride in on time, I'm stuck.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Well, Mario, this has just been an amazing experience. Thank you so much for allowing me the time to visit with you and talk about your film. I love getting to. I wish I could talk to you for an hour,
Yeah.
but thank you again for this time, and I can't wait for audiences to see the film, and
Me too, man.
hopefully we'll get to do this again in the future.
We had an audience see the film the other night at the Pan African Film Festival. We won Best Feature and Best and Audience Award. So that was a fun, and people yelling and talking to the screen. It was great. So fun.
I love hearing that, man. That's exciting, and it's such a great kickoff to this run. So I'm pumped for you, man. I can't wait to see what you got coming up next, as always. And Nerd Informants is here. Anytime you want to visit, anytime you want to talk about content, we're here to help.
Thank you, brother. Yes, great questions. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, thank you, sir. Hope you have a good rest of your day, and thank you again.
All right, buddy.